This week's episode is sponsored by the Brilliant Futures Institute.
Something that I really want to be preeminent at is just staying the course, not getting emotional over things. Definitely I get happy. Definitely I get silly with my kids. I love to have fun in business. But the emotions in the decision-making process especially, I don't want to get emotional in that. I want to get the facts because the facts are what's going to count after the emotions fade.
Welcome to the Preeminence Podcast.
You cannot be a courageous leader if you're not vulnerable.
Your legacy is every life you've touched.
The only thing that changes our life long term is when we raise our standards.
Now is the time to take risk.
The way it's always been done isn't necessarily the way it should be done.
What is your dream? What do you think 2050, 2100 is going to look like?
The most incredible sort of mystery, I think, is now the question of what comes next.
Stay hungry, stay foolish.
Welcome to the Preeminence Podcast. I'm your host, Matthew J. Peters. Visit preeminence.tv to learn more about how to create a preeminent presence for your business, organization, or personal brand. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or just ask Alexa to play the Preeminence Podcast.
Whether in business, in a partnership, in a relationship, we have a lot of stories going on in our lives, don't we? There's a lot of drama. There's a lot of perspectives. And if we're going to be leaders, we need to be able to listen and to sift through all of the facts, all of the emotions, and see what's important for us to move forward. How are we going to make our decisions if it's based on emotions? Several years ago, I read a book by Seneca, who is a Stoic. And, I always thought of Stoic as being like the old sea captain, that nothing would harm him, nothing would faze him. And in being Stoic, it's like you have no emotion. But really what I found is there's something to that. There's something about being solid. Here's what I mean. I would get very reactive. I would even get depressed. I would get all kinds of different emotions because of what was coming at me, other people's stories, other people's speed, or what have you. And what I really needed to do is just listen, just be open and be quiet. A lot of people have ways of wanting to talk through things. They want to get a lot of feedback on things. And what I do is I just listen and I take it in and I'm quiet because it's very easy to get reactive in the moment. And sometimes people want you to talk right now. And for me, I'm a slow thinker. I'm not like a fast thinker that someone says, hey, we should do this or this. I say yes. Because I want my yes and my no to have a quality to it that people can depend on, knowing that I'm not going to sway back and forth or change my mind very quickly. I rarely change my mind. And when I do change my mind, it's because it's been after a long time of convincing, a lot of contemplating, because I know when I change my mind, I'm changing my path. And when I change my path, I have to look at, well, what did I just accomplish getting to this point? How much work did I put into this? I don't like doing work twice. That's why when I make a decision to do something, I just keep going at it until it's done, even though things may come and go. So here's what I want to give you. Being solid is non-reactive. It's the quiet in the storm. If you can be the quiet in the storm, there's power in that. Because if you were the quiet person in the room when everybody else is yelling and screaming and arguing about things, the cool thing is if you're sitting back, you're getting to see all the perspectives of what people have to say. And what I found, even when I was back in college, I'd be on teams and we would be talking through a project or whatever, and I would just listen to everybody. And because when I listen to everybody and then it's been like 15, 20 minutes, I haven't said anything. When I said something, and when everybody's talking over each other, when I said something, people listened because I wasn't talking throughout the whole thing. So I want to make sure the words that I use have meaning, and that meaning is derived from listening. Sometimes I have the habit of not talking at all because I don't want to speak out of a reaction. Sometimes people want a response immediately, and sometimes my response is like, I have nothing to add to this right now. It could be I agree or I don't have enough information to go off of right now. But just knowing that you don't have to be reactive in a situation. When someone wants you to react, if you're in a relationship and someone wants you to react and you don't, they may get angry. They may not understand, but that's okay. You know, I know that order follows chaos. There is a natural ebb and flow to conversations. There's a natural ebb and flow to life. And so if you're in a business or if you're in a relationship or a partnership, I want you to think about this. There's going to be people who are get very emotional, and they will go very high in emotions and then go very low in emotions. Not always the same person, but you'll see the highs and the lows. But if you can find that middle path or that middle ground, you just keep going towards the goal and you don't get reactive. What you're going to do is you're going to watch people on their way up, and you're going to be watching people on their way down and watching them back on their way up. And all that time, you've just been steady like that ship, going steady on course, not being swayed by the storms. You know how to right the ship to keep it going towards the goal. A leader needs to be able to do that. A promoter is great at being very oriented in the story and drama and a lot of talking. But the leader I'm talking about, that I'm recommending, is a really good listener. And that's obviously something that all of us need to work on. I need to work on my listening. I can always listen to a person better. There's always room for improvement for me. You know, being solid is not a denial. It's an understanding of the bigger picture, the overall strategy, the long game. You want to make it so when you say yes, it means something. It's like, I just wrote this in ink on a contract. That's my yes. Or my no, I'm not going back there. Unless you convince me this is important, I'm not going back there. And so my yeses and nos, I really want to mean something. And changing my mind is only after a lot of convincing and deliberation. Now, why did I move to this? I moved to this way of thinking because I used to get so emotional from other people. I wanted to please people, and I wanted to make sure everybody was happy. I wanted to make sure there was harmony. And you can have harmony by maintaining that middle ground, that middle road. Harmony doesn't need to mean that you have to be following people on their emotional roller coaster up and down all the time. If you are, sometimes what happens is now you have two people that are wrapped up in emotions. You need someone who's going to be logical to help make those decisions. When people are on that roller coaster, think about it. When they're down and you have someone who's a voice of reason, you need that. When someone's up and they're in the clouds and not really thinking of reality, you need someone who has their feet on the ground. Obviously, you don't want to be a pessimist. Stoicism or being solid is not being a pessimist. On the contrary, it's an optimist saying, I've thought about this. How can we make this work? Instead of being, wow, this is the most amazing thing, or this won't work. We've been in bad times in our business, and we're just talking about all the things, all the negative drama in our life. You need someone on that middle road. The one big thing that I saw was causing all these emotional roller coasters, these ups and downs, was one word: assumption. Now, I read a phenomenal book called The Power of Assumption. And that's when you're assuming that you have the power to control your life. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the assumption of, I'm going to fill in all the blanks instead of getting the details. Assumption is usually the opposite of reality. Not always, but a lot of times we're like, yeah, I know this person. I know what they're going to say next. I know how they're going to act. I know how they're going to react. And so we play these stories in our mind, and we're doing this emotional gymnastics, this going up and down the emotional roller coaster before, and nothing even happened yet. Yet here we are, we're on this emotional roller coaster. I've been up and down that roller coaster so many times. One time, literally, the switch flipped. And I was on this emotional roller coaster, and I was saying, what am I doing? I have no idea what this person is thinking. I'm going to wait, and I'm going to find out what the reality is. Because I can't come up with reality in my mind. I can't assume I know what reality is. I'm pulling together all these patterns from the past, right? And I know people change. I believe people change. I believe in the best in people. And so the assumption still can kill. I've had so many instances of me wanting to please people because I assumed if I said something or I did something, they may not approve of that. They may not want to be my friend anymore. And that was so silly. But if you're going to be a leader, I'm just going to say I need to get better at taking feedback. I'm not the best at taking feedback because I feel like, well, this is personal. And I've always had that challenge of personal versus business. And if it's a business thing and people are giving me feedback, I need to listen to it. It's like, you know what? This is right. I'm taking this in. You're right. I'm just assimilating this right now. I'm just taking this in. And you know how I said that I don't have the fast yes and the fast no. So sometimes for me to take something and I'm like, I understand what you're saying now. This is changing how I think. I'm rewiring in my mind right now. So for me to say, yeah, you're right. That's just, it's fast, but it's also, I want to say that when it's true. Like, yes, now that I've thought about it, you're right. You know, or now that I thought about it, no, I still disagree. And we're not going to agree on that. But to be okay with that. So if you're tired of going up and down in this emotional roller coaster, here's a few things that I found that helped me. Maybe they'll help you. First of all, I had to stop assuming. And when you stop assuming, you really kind of put the brakes on the emotional roller coaster. And I found there's a few different ways to act when it comes to assumption. So drop the assumption, or we just need to stop assuming things because we don't have enough information. So one of the things you can do is you can ask for clarification in the moment. So you can say, tell me more about that. What do you mean? Or I don't understand. Could you help me understand? What do you mean by that? And sometimes when you say, what do you mean by that? People take that offense to that. So get more clarification in the moment. You can also diffuse the situation by dropping your ego. You know, the ego is not going to help you as a leader. I found that my ego usually keeps me small. And diffusing the situation really helps when you drop your ego, when you don't have to be right. If you feel like you have to be right in the situation, then you've shut off any other possibility except for what you believe to be right. And there's a lot of rights. There's a lot of people who can be right. There's more than one right way to do things. It's not saying that yours is wrong, but listening to other approaches is something that a leader needs to do to make sure that they're always following the best protocol. Another thing you do is wait for time to pass. You know, is this mission critical? Do we need to make a decision on this right now? Or can we have 5 minutes, an hour, even a day pass where you can think this through? Some people think really fast. I don't. I like to think things over, take my time and make sure my yes is a very, very solid yes, or my no is a very, very solid no, and move forward with that decision being made. When there's no emotion with it anymore. Because if I say yes in the moment, that's too fast because I haven't really thought through. I didn't get enough of the information. It was an uneducated decision. It was an emotional decision. Sometimes those emotions change. And I want to make sure that my yes is a yes. And then another way you can stop the assuming is clarify your position. You can say, well, here's what I'm understanding, or here's what I think. From what you've shared, thank you very much for sharing. Here's what I think about that. Clarify your position. So ask for clarification, diffuse the situation, and drop your ego. Wait for time to pass. If it's not mission critical, you don't need to give an answer right then. Or clarify your position. That really will help you as a leader stay solid. Because when you're way up, and I've been an entrepreneur since 2000, well, I've been an entrepreneur all my life, but full-time since 2002. It's an emotional roller coaster throughout the day. So for you to be solid is really going to help you through your business, is to not let your client say, I'm having a problem, or I can't pay you, or a partner saying that they disagree with your decision, or you're not doing enough, or you have your spouse arguing with you, or the drama from your parents and your family, all that stuff. Can you imagine all the separate roller coasters you ride throughout the day? But what if you could be solid through the storm? You could keep that ship going straight no matter what storms come. You just keep chugging along. There's power in that. There's power in being solid. And I think so few people have mastered being solid. And that's something that I really want to be preeminent at, is known for just staying the course, not getting emotional over things. Definitely I get happy. Definitely I get silly with my kids. I love to have fun in business. But the emotions in the decision-making process especially, I don't want to get emotional in that. I want to get the facts, because the facts are what's going to count after the emotions fade. So on your road to preeminence, I encourage you to find what you can be solid in, where you're not going to be swayed going up and down the emotional roller coaster throughout the day, throughout the week, but to mitigate your highs and lows by taking the middle road, getting the facts, getting clear, taking your time on decisions, and making your yes and your no solid.
Thank you for listening to the Preeminence Podcast. Subscribe to hear powerful interviews and insights each week automatically downloaded the moment they go live. Share this episode with your team, your friends, and post it on social media. Let us know your comments and suggestions for the show at m@ascend.net. That's the letter M @ASYND.net.